The delicate ring of crystal meeting teeth echoed softly as I took another sip of wine, observing Amanda, my ever-polished sister, dominate the conversation at our family's monthly dinner gathering. Her designer gown probably cost more than what they assumed my storefront earned in a month. But that was exactly the illusion I wanted them to believe. So anyway, Amanda continued, gesturing with perfectly manicured fingers, Morgan Stanley's finally recognizing my worth. I'm getting a corner office? And the bonus? Let's just say it's comfortably 7 figures. She paused to flash me a look of rehearsed sympathy. Oh, Sarah. I shouldn't flaunt finances in front of you, not when you're still managing that cute little shop on Mason Street. The store they pitted sold handmade jewelry and artisan crafts, or so they thought. My mother leaned in, voice soaked in artificial concern perfected from years at the country club. How's business going, dear? Just keeping things afloat, I said, hiding a smile. I'd spent the morning in a very different kind of meeting, one that involved Mason Street Enterprises, the real business behind that humble facade. Unbeknownst to them, it had quietly grown into one of the largest private manufacturers and distributors on the East Coast. That quaint little boutique was just a mask, carefully maintained so my family's pity stayed right where I wanted it. It's steady, I murmured. I sold 3 necklaces yesterday. Amanda nearly choked on her drink. 3? Sweetheart. She stretched across the table, reaching for my hand like I was some lost child. Morgan Stanley's always got openings in the mailroom. At least that's a real job. I withdrew my hand calmly, mind drifting to the contract on my desk, stamped with Morgan Stanley's logo, requesting full East Coast distribution rights. The same deal that only required one more signature, mine. Or more accurately, the signature of S.E. Mason, the elusive CEO of Mason Street Enterprises. I'm content with my shop, I said evenly, catching the disappointed shake of my father's head. Sarah, he sighed, you're 32. Isn't it time you stopped playing with hobbies and entered the real workforce? Your sister was already a junior VP at your age. I thought of my real office, spanning the top 3 floors of the city's most elite tower. The empire I'd constructed while they imagined I was stringing beads and making bracelets. Speaking of careers, Amanda perked up. Just landed a major deal at work. $2 million contract with Mason Street Enterprises. They're a giant in manufacturing. No one knows who their CEO is, though. Some reclusive ghost. I took another slow sip of wine, recalling how I'd reviewed that exact contract earlier, how I spotted the bloated costs, the sneaky clauses, the hidden penalties that could have drained millions. That's wonderful, darling, my mother gushed, pride glowing in her eyes. Amanda gave a modest shrug. Just doing what I do best, closing deals and making money. Unlike some people, she added, glancing in my direction, who prefer to play shopkeeper. Dinner unfolded like it always did. Amanda basked in their admiration. My parents beamed with pride. And I sat quietly, playing the role of the family letdown. When dessert arrived, my phone vibrated. Excuse me, I said, checking the message. Shop emergency. Oh no, Amanda said, her voice dipped in mock concern. Did someone spill your bead tray? I stood and picked up my handbag, Hermes, though they were convinced it was a fake. Actually, I need to sign some documents. A contract? My father snorted. For more costume jewelry? I smiled faintly, thinking of Amanda's precious deal. Something like that. Enjoy your evening, everyone. As I drove away in my deliberately modest car, I could still hear their voices echoing in my mind. Poor Sarah, still clinging to her little shop. What a waste. If only they knew. Back at my true office, I looked again at the Morgan Stanley proposal. Amanda's signature gleamed beside the spot meant for mine. I reached for my red stamp and pressed it down. Rejected. Tomorrow, Amanda would discover that her supposed triumph had just imploded. But this was only the beginning. She had no idea that Mason Street Enterprises wasn't just walking away from their contract. We were about to become Morgan Stanley's fiercest competitor in manufacturing logistics. I picked up the phone. Janet, I said. Activate Project Phoenix. Time to show Morgan Stanley what real business looks like. Yes, Miss Mason, she replied. And your sister? I smiled, recalling Amanda's smug expression from dinner. She'll find out soon enough. After all, family should be the first to know when everything changes. The next morning, I sat in my corner office on the 47th floor, watching golden sunlight spill across the skyline. My real office. Not the cozy front they thought was my whole life. Janet appeared, tablet in hand, barely hiding her grin. It's begun. Morgan Stanley's stock dropped 3% in pre-market after our press release. I nodded, pulling up the announcement. Mason Street Enterprises launches disruptive manufacturing and distribution platform, direct competition to traditional financial logistics. The business world was about to feel the quake, and Amanda's corner office sat at the epicenter. My phone buzzed. Amanda's name lit up. 6 missed calls. I let it ring out and turned to the live feed of Morgan Stanley's trading floor. The chaos was beautiful. Miss Mason, Janet said, breaking the silence. Your sister's in the lobby. Very determined to see you. I stood, adjusting my designer suit. No more disguises. Let her wait 10 minutes. Then send her up. Watching her pace the lobby through security footage was delicious. Amanda's flawless exterior was unraveling, hair slightly unkempt, her clothes thrown on in a rush. When Janet finally led her into my office, her eyes scanned the room in shock, lingering on the view, the luxury, and finally, on me behind the desk. Sarah. Her voice cracked. What is this? I'm looking for Mason. I leaned back with a calm smile. You're looking at her. S.E. Mason. Sarah Elizabeth Mason. Her face lost all color. No, she whispered. You run a craft shop. You sell knickknacks. You're the failure. The one who needs a real job, remember? I stood and moved around the desk. Amazing how deceptive appearances can be, isn't it? Her eyes darted to the document in my hand. The contract. You rejected it. You're the ghost CEO. I held it up. Did you think I wouldn't catch the price padding? The embedded traps? You nearly cost my company millions. Mason Street is your company? But how? I perched on the desk's edge and gave her a knowing look. Remember when Grandpa passed away? Everyone assumed Grandpa left me nothing but that crumbling building on Mason Street. But he knew what he was doing, something the rest of the family never understood. That property sat atop the forgotten archives of the old industrial district. Blueprints, contracts, patents, buried records that once fueled a generation of manufacturers. While Amanda was scaling corporate ladders, I was laying the groundwork for something far more substantial. Amanda collapsed into the guest chair across from me, her confidence unraveling. The boutique? A flawless disguise. Who would ever suspect the woman stringing beads behind the counter was secretly running a multi-billion-dollar manufacturing empire? Certainly not the sister who never missed a chance to flaunt her superiority. Janet appeared in the doorway. Ms. Mason, the CEO of Morgan Stanley, is on line 1. He's furious about this morning's press release. Of course he is, I said evenly. We just announced that we're absorbing 60% of their logistics contracts. I turned back to Amanda. That was your division, wasn't it? Such a shame about all those clients you're about to lose. Her voice came out hoarse. You'll ruin my career. Just like you tried to ruin my reputation? I stepped toward the tall windows, the city's skyline gleaming below us. Years of ridicule. Dismissing every decision I made. Treating me like an embarrassment. I folded my arms. Actions come with consequences, dear sister. Maybe it's time you learned that. My phone vibrated again. This time, our parents. News travels fast when the markets tremble. I could only imagine the expressions on their faces as they realized the failure of the family was the force behind today's headlines. Janet, I called, please escort my sister out. I turned to Amanda, voice velvet smooth. And do send my regards to your colleagues at Morgan Stanley. I expect we'll be seeing plenty of each other soon, just not on the same side of the table. As Amanda walked out, her expensive heels unsteady beneath her, I picked up my phone again. Time to shift gears. A new chapter was beginning, and the next family dinner would feel very different. The next dinner came faster than expected. This time, I didn't bother with casual attire. I walked into the country club in a sleek Chanel suit, wearing jewelry crafted by my own artisans that made Amanda's favorite pieces look like toy baubles. I arrived in the Bentley I rarely drove, handing off the keys to a valet who blinked in disbelief. He was used to parking my old Toyota. Inside, the mood was thick with tension. My parents sat at our usual table, but their postures were stiff, replaced confidence with wary calculation. Amanda wasn't there. After losing Morgan Stanley's biggest logistics contracts, she had been quietly transferred to a minor satellite office in Minnesota. My mother stood as I approached. "You look different." I slid into my seat. Amazing what's possible when you're running a multi-billion-dollar company. Though I'm guessing you've figured that out by now. My father cleared his throat. "Princess, maybe we should discuss this. As a family. Now you want to talk?" I raised an eyebrow. Not when I was putting in 18-hour days. Not when Amanda made a sport of mocking me. Not when you dismissed everything I built as a hobby. "We didn't know," my mother said weakly. "You didn't ask," I replied, signaling the waiter for a bottle of wine, the kind I used to pretend was out of my budget. Too busy celebrating Amanda's promotions to notice what was actually happening. My father leaned forward, his business instincts finally catching up to reality. "Maybe we could explore some investment opportunities. Family ventures." I laughed, the sound cutting through the hushed dining room. "Like the time you refused to loan me seed money because shops don't scale? Because jewelry isn't a real business." My phone buzzed. Janet's message lit up the screen, and a slow smile spread across my face. "Well, that's timely. Looks like Morgan Stanley's stock just dropped another 5%. Apparently, losing their manufacturing division is hitting harder than expected." "Your sister," my mother started. "Has learned," I interrupted, "that underestimating people comes at a price." I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a folder. "Speaking of which, I just acquired the building where Amanda's new office is located. Rent's going up. Substantially." "That's cruel," my father muttered. "Cruel." I set down my glass. "Like when you made me eat in the kitchen during business dinners because I embarrassed you. Like warning investors not to back my company. Like encouraging Amanda to tear down everything I built." Silence settled over the table. Around us, other country club members tried to look away, but I could feel their attention, their curiosity. Everyone wanted to know who S.E. Mason really was. Tonight, they were watching it unfold live. "We were wrong," my mother said softly. "We should have supported you." "Yes," I agreed, standing as I adjusted my skirt. "You should have. But you didn't. And now you get to live with that." I pulled out one last document and laid it on the table. "By the way, I just purchased this country club. Your memberships? They're under review next month. I hear the public course across town is lovely." As I left, my heels echoed through the marble hallway. I didn't look back. That night, back in my headquarters overlooking the glowing city, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years. Magazine interview requests. Amanda's desperate texts from Minnesota. Janet walked in, coffee in hand. "Your parents are downstairs again. They've been calling all week trying to get a meeting." I smirked. "Tell them Miss Mason's calendar is full. Maybe next quarter." "And your sister's request to transfer back to the main office?" I sipped the coffee. "Let Morgan Stanley know we're happy with our current Minnesota rep. No changes." Janet nodded and left. I reached for the delicate key hanging around my neck, the key to that old storefront on Mason Street. I still opened the shop every Saturday. Still sold jewelry and local crafts. Not out of necessity, but to remember where it all started. Because that tiny store, the one they laughed at, became the foundation of everything they now feared and admired. Success, I'd learned, isn't defined by job titles or designer shoes. It's about resilience, vision, patience. And sometimes, the sweetest revenge isn't proving them wrong, it's watching them realize they never truly saw you at all. Outside, the city sparkled like a constellation of victories. And somewhere beneath those lights stood the very people who once looked down on me, now struggling to catch up. I picked up my phone and drafted a quick group message. "Dinner's cancelled next month. I have a real company to run." Then I set it down and turned my attention back to the empire they never saw coming. After all, the quiet ones are often the ones rewriting the rules.